How do? And welcome to episode 2 of what we've been playing, I guess. A couple of things I want to say first before I really start, and that's one, doing this quite early on in the morning. I've only been up half an hour, which is why I've got the panda eyes, you know. It was either do it now or do it like 2 weeks into March, which I really didn't want to do. I want to try and keep this regular. So yeah, I've just kind of found like a spare hour in my schedule to come and talk about games. Secondly, I just want to say a big thank you to everybody who watched the last one. I know it didn't have the hugest numbers, but I didn't think it would. And the amount of people who did watch and comment was actually quite overwhelming to me for something that I thought would get like literally 10 views, maybe. People only really seem interested in watching collection videos and pickups, so, you know, quite overwhelmed by the amount of people that did actually watch that, so thank you. It's, I was doing this for me anyway, this little talking about games thing, because it's just a big outlet for me, just talking about games and just nerding out for myself for a little bit. And I'm not, you know, I'm hard to pin down for a live stream, so I don't know if I'll ever get a chance to be on the Club 52 live stream or not, so it's just kind of a nice thing for me to do, to just sit there and get things out of my system. So thanks for humouring me, yeah. Once again, I've not done it yet because I'm too lazy, but if anybody would like to, just share an evening and just come and sit and chat to me for an hour or so about what you've been playing, and we'll make it a special episode of this, then, you know, please get in touch. I'd love to just talk to people about games. I will be approaching some people about it, so I'm just been too lazy to do it so far. So I played a bit less in February than I did in January. Obviously it's a shorter month, and I've been at work all month. So, and I've also had quite a big game that I've played through as well, which took up over 80 hours of my time. So, yeah, it's been a quicker video, hopefully, than the last one. Sadly, I'm going to start off with a drop-off. Actually, it's a game that I was enjoying playing, but I just didn't really want to carry on anymore. So it's a game that I dropped off on, and that is Paleo Pines on the Switch. The Dino Valley. It was a game that I thought might be shit when I added it to my wishlist, should I say, as soon as it got me for Christmas. It could have been fantastic, it could have been shit, but it ended up being better than I expected it. It's what it is. It's a little like farming game, like Harvest Moon, Stardew Valley style farming game. But instead of animals, you sort of catch dinosaurs. More on that in a sec. And you have dinosaurs living on your farm, and as well as instead of like say in Stardew Valley, where like your chickens would lay eggs and your pigs would look for truffles and you'd get milk from your cows and you'd sell your produce on, the dinosaurs themselves actually end up becoming sort of like farmhands, and it's like you'll get some of them will have the ability to suck up water and spray it out so it'll water your crops quicker. Some of them can break rocks, some of them can break logs, stuff like that. I don't understand why an animal that's strong enough to break rocks can't break a log, but you know, game logic. So yeah, it does kind of add a little bit of like a newness to that kind of farming game kind of feel, because you're essentially, instead of rearing just livestock, you're kind of rearing your own farm equipment, if you know what I mean. When I say they become farmhands, they don't really do things autonomously, at least not while I've been playing. You have to ride the dinosaurs to get them to do the stuff, so it is like you're going out there and you're rearing your own tractor so you can go out and plough your fields, stuff like that. Onto the catching side of things, it's very, very much reminded me of Pokemon Legends Arceus. I don't know how you pronounce that word. In that, like, you can sort of go out into like open areas and you can see the dinosaurs in herds, like wandering about and stuff, and you have to go and sort of catch them that way instead of catching them in like a Pokemon battle. What it is they have a friendship song that they sing, and it's like using your shoulder buttons on your controller. You know, each shoulder button's a different note, and you have to hold it down for certain times. And they'll play a song with like they'll sing a song at you with like and it'll put up like symbols corresponding to the shoulder buttons on your controller, and then in response you have to then play the same song on your little flute thing. And if you do that and feed them the food they like and stuff, they'll become friends with you and follow you back to your farm where you can, you know, let them live. So it's kind of like a new take on the like farming kind of game, and that's what's kind of interesting about it. What I've said doesn't sound a lot like Pokemon Legends, but that was immediately what I thought of when I was playing the game, and I could see the Pokemon see the dinosaurs roaming around in the background. Overall, it's a really charming game, but the graphics themselves, like on the people at least, really lack character. Every person in the game has like the same sort of body type. Say apart from there's like a little older woman, but apart from that, everybody else has the same sort of body type, and the face is pretty much on every character. The face is the same. It's like as if the game's been made using like a graphics kit, or by using like stock models that you can just buy from people and sort of change different parts in and out. I don't even know if that's a thing, but it just feels like it's been put together using like pre-made pieces. It's hard to explain, but just every character looks identical. No one's got their own kind of individuality, and it's not really an artistic style that's appealing. In at least in the people anyway. The dinosaurs look great, and it's nice to see there's like a big variety of dinosaurs, but also there's dinosaurs that you wouldn't even really think of putting in stuff like this. The first one you get is you start off with a Parasaurolophus, and then it's like your second one that you get is a Gallimimus, and it's like normally it's like you'd see games like this and they'd be like Diplodocus check, Triceratops check, Stegosaurus check, T-Rex check, Velociraptor check. We've got them all, and this one's like going out of its way to sort of push dinosaurs that kids might not know what they are, which is great for a dinosaur nerd like me. They've got like really modern, like up to date view, like the way how the dinosaurs look in a cartoony, simplistic way. But like the raptors, stuff like Gallimimus, and I think that might be the only kind of like raptor type dinosaur I've found so far. But yeah, they've got like feathered arms and stuff like that. Some of them have got furry bits. It's a modern way of looking at how dinosaurs would have looked, whether you like that kind of thing or not. I personally, yeah, I'm right. I'm not denying that they looked like that in real life. I'm just saying that I don't like that. When I like to see dinosaurs, I like to see Jurassic Park dinosaurs. I like to see the lizardy ones, not the birdy ones. But rant aside of my own personal hang-ups, the dinosaurs kind of look up to date as you would expect them to. They also, and when they instead of like growling and roaring at you, they kind of like coo and hum and sing, and that's like, I don't know, it's just very endearing. It's it's not something you'd expect like them to make like little like kind of mewing noises at you and stuff like that. It's just, I don't know, it just feels nice when you're playing it. It's very affirming, very sort of calming and stuff like that. The main reason I stopped playing is because progress in the game is very slow. It's like a Stardew kind of thing where you'd have tasks to do, but it's not as tight feeling as Stardew Valley. I need to stop comparing every one of these games to Stardew Valley because nothing is going to top that, I don't think. It's like you'll be on your farm. You can't enter your house, which is also already a step back from Stardew. But to be honest, even though Stardew was made by one person entirely, Paleo Pine feels like a lower budget game. You have a bit of outdoor space which expands as you clear the rocks and stuff, which you can only do a certain amount of a day because each dinosaur's only got a certain amount of stamina a day. So you're sort of chipping away at that a little bit every day. You've got like, you start off by growing crops, and I don't know if you ever really get any other way of getting an income, but that's your main income, is growing crops and selling them. And then there's like a sort of little mini kind of pseudo RPG game going on where people in the town nearby will be asking you to do things for them and stuff. And there's like a little storyline where you're Parasaurolophus. Apparently it's a really rare type of dinosaur, and you're trying to find more of its kind so it can be with its family, sort of thing. So yeah, the progress is very slow with that too. People ask you for something like, we want like 15 crops of a certain type, and then you've got to wait until they grow, which takes a few days. I've noticed resources like fibre, for instance. You can get resources like wood, stone and fibre from breaking up the stuff that's on your property, like, you know, the debris. And fibre, for instance, doesn't seem... It seems like once it's gone, it's gone. It's like... I've very rarely come across it while out in the wild, whereas stone and wood you can find out and about all over the place, but fibre, you really struggle to find that. And it makes things kind of grind to a halt for a bit while you're really looking for something, like stuff that these people need. Also, to keep the dinosaurs on your farm, or at least to keep them happy and make them into like usable things on your farm, you have to find dreamstones, which, like, big dinosaurs will need a large dreamstone and small dinosaurs need a small one, and it's essentially a bed it's somewhere for your dinosaurs to sleep. And that would be great if you could, like, manufacture or buy as many of these dreamstones as you want, but these dreamstones are finite in the world, which means you have to know where they are, you have to find them, because they're not randomly spaced, they're in specific locations, and once they're gone, they're gone. So if, like me, you're a bit of a sort of completionist with something like that, and you want every dinosaur on your farm at once, and like to level them up to their potential, you're going to have to find all these dreamstones, and there's possibly not enough to get one of every dinosaur. So yeah, that makes progress difficult too. So essentially I came to the conclusion that while I was enjoying it for what it was too much busy work and would take far too long to actually get anywhere in this game and take up too much of my time, so I shelved it. I may go back to it at some point because I was enjoying it. It's a nice little game. If you don't play a lot of games, you know, if you like to, you know, keep to one game for a long time and you like these cozy games, then I probably recommend this. It's, aside from Stardew, it's probably one of the best of these farming type games that I've played. I would recommend it, but not if you don't have the time to put into it and the patience. The end point for me is I caught a Triceratops. A Triceratops is my favourite dinosaur. I caught one, had it in it lived in my farm, and that was good enough for me. That was a good enough end point. That was all my loose ends were covered there. I didn't get to ride it, but you know, come see, come sa. The next game I played was I can't show you anything of it because it's a digital game, but I played it on the old ROG Ally, and it's a game called Jusant. Jusant. I don't know how you pronounce it. I think it's a French word. It's something to do with climbing. I just base it on the fact that there's a comedian whose name's Toussaint. He's not even spelled the same, but that's just how I pronounce it. Alexa, how do you pronounce Jusant?
Good morning, Pete. I pronounce that Jusant, but I'm always working on how I say things and I might not have it right.
Well, Jusant then. Alexa, what does Jusant mean?
The adjective decent is usually defined as conforming to the recognized standard of propriety.
Alexa,
is the 10th letter...
Stop. Alexa, what does Jusant mean?
From Destructoid.com. Jusant is a French word used in the maritime world, and it refers to ebbing tides.
Okay, there you go then. Ebbing tides. Yeah, I suppose that does have kind of like a theme in the game, I suppose, yeah. Anyway, Jusant, as I've been told it's pronounced, absolutely brilliant. Really one of the sort of most surprisingly great games that I've ever played. I remember it was brought to my attention this time by Eddie Rollico. He loves being a bit of an influencer, that guy. But I remember seeing it in a PlayStation showcase a couple of years ago, and what it is, it's like a third-person, like, puzzle platformer, made by Don't Nod Entertainment, who are the guys behind the original Life is Strange games, which I loved. And, it's sort of like a non-violent climbing sim. I think it's referred to as a boy in a lot of, like, media outside the game, but to me the character seemed really kind of like sort of non-gendered, like it could be a boy or a girl, which I think is, you know, for a silent character with no name, I think that is quite cool because it allows people to sort of project themselves onto it a bit more. I can't think of androgynous, that's the word I was trying to think of. But yeah, you're just trying to climb to the top of this tower where there's been like a civilization lived before that's now gone, and it's in like a desert, and a believe the sort of arc of the story was that this was once like a lush green area, and there were these animals which were essentially big flying whales that were made of water, and they would bring like the rain to the place to keep all the to keep the lush verdant greenery around. And these animals have sort of gradually either died out or disappeared, and everything dried up, and the civilization left to find more, to find a better place to live or to bring these animals back. So yeah, you're just this lone climber who essentially has to climb to the top of this tower and find out what happened. And you've got with you like a little animal, a little baby, one of these whale creature things. So I'm guessing that your purpose is to try and bring them back from the top of this tower using this little one, because I think this is the first time one of those animals has been seen for quite a long time. So yeah, that's just what I kind of like put together by a completely non-verbal game, which is probably entirely wrong, but that's what I took away from it. I absolutely loved this game. I really did. It's so relaxing. It's just completely non-verbal. The music is kind of like reduced to like sort of little kind of sort of like musical cues every so often to just kind of draw your attention to something rather than an ongoing soundtrack. It's that relaxing that I, on a couple of occasions, fell asleep while playing it, which is not like... It's not something that never happens for me, because I do quite often... I'll be playing a game, and my eyes will start to droop, and I'll pause it and have a nap. But with this one, I was literally playing it, and I was falling asleep as playing it, and not pausing the game or anything, which is... It's a good job it's not a combat-based game, because I'd be dead. The main focus of the game is the climbing mechanic. Other than that, it is just a standard sort of run around and run and jump platformer. But the climbing mechanic is where it really shines. The closest I can think of is Tomb Raider Underworld, when they brought in kind of like a sort of almost free climbing thing, where you'd get to a wall where there'd be like loads of outcrops, and sort of like the AI would like, where you were climbing, it'd sort of put her hands into different places and climb a bit more realistically than like previous games in the series where you were just all straight ledges and jumping between them and shimmying across. They did also brought that in when they did Uncharted 4 as well. There's sort of like an illusion of that in like the Assassin's Creed games, but really everything is evenly spaced out, and it is just a stock animation that you do when you're climbing with that. And then with like Breath of the Wild and everything, they didn't even bother to do anything like that. You just kind of went like that, no matter what surface you were climbing or anything. With like what I was saying with Tomb Raider Underworld and Uncharted 4 is that the handholds could be anywhere, and basically like it's like had an AI working out where you'd put your hands if you were climbing and stuff, and it made quite a realistic kind of, not even like an animation. It was like animation that was sort of drawn up there and then. So yeah, it just made for quite a more realistic experience when you like how it looked when you were climbing. This is like that, but each of you will get a controller to show off. Like each of your shoulder buttons, your triggers, is each hand sort of thing. So you'd be holding on. You'd jump on something and hold on with both triggers, and then you'd let go of one, move your directional stick to like one of the next handholds, and instead of grabbing on automatically like it would in Tomb Raider or Uncharted, you then got to grab on with your right hand, let go of your left hand, and then do the same with your left hand. So you're constantly like moving. You're constantly sort of alternating hands, and every so often you will forget and let go, and you'll fall. And it makes the climbing so interesting, and it adds like an extra level of interactivity with it, really. And it's kind of like a cross between the climbing on like Tomb Raider and Uncharted and stuff, and like there's bits on Astrobot where you have to use the same thing with your hands. I mentioned it in the last one, where you get like, I think it's like a monkey suit, and you have to like sort of fire an arm up with that, grab hold of something, then pull the left side of your body up, do it again, like go with that one and do that one. With the motion controls, the motion controls don't play a part in this, but it's the same sort of thing. You grab on with your right hand, like move to aim your left arm to the next one, grab on with your left arm, let go of your right, and stuff like that. It's so intuitive and yet so simple that it's like, yeah, of course you'd do it like that. Why wouldn't you do it like that? And it really does kind of bring you, like, immerse you into the aspect of climbing more. On top of that, you've got like a stamina bar, a bit like Breath of the Wild, where you can only climb a certain amount before you lose all your stamina and then dropping. You can rebuild stamina just by taking a break, even if you're mid climb. But your stamina bar, like when you jump and stuff, your bar is gradually shortened. Like, say you'll start off with 100% stamina wheel. That'll kind of tick down, but as you're sort of climbing around or jumping around, if you want to get there quicker or make bigger gaps, the stamina wheel will drop down to like a maximum of, like, say 90%, then 80% and stuff like that. And a lot of jumps and a lot of, like, strenuous climbing will make it so you can only achieve a maximum of, like, say 40%, 30%, and you can't sort of rest any higher than that until you next put your feet on land. You have like a carabiner, like in a safety rope while you're climbing, which is something I've not seen in the game before. And as you're making long climbs, you can sort of hammer your nail into the side and hook your rope onto that. So if you fall or you run out of stamina, you're never going to go any further back than that point, which is a really good mechanic. You can only use a certain amount between starting and finishing a climb, so you have to sort of space that out as well as you'd like as well. And you can use that as well to, like, angle, like, rope swings and stuff as well, which is really cool. It's really satisfying to do, to discover something like, hang on, if I put a nail in there and then I can swing across and make this gap and stuff like that. Just working out where you're going is really, really satisfying. It's hard to find a criticism of this game because I loved it so much, but if I was to pick one, I would say that I'm kind of bored of cel-shaded graphics. It seems like a sort of go-to that a lot of indie games will try and use now. It's like Goose Game, it's like that kind of graphical thing. It's a bit sort of more, like, detailed than Untitled Goose Game, but it's that kind of cel-shaded, kind of flat textured graphics that I'm kind of getting I'm over it now, I think. The game is very beautiful with these graphics, and there are times, as with every climbing game, where you'll stop and just take note of your surroundings, and there'll be like a beautiful vista around you. It does take your breath away, even with the cel-shaded graphics. But all I was thinking at the time when I was playing it was, imagine if this was like photorealistic. Imagine if this had the graphic quality of an Uncharted or a Tomb Raider or an Assassin's Creed. Imagine you're probably miles up by the end of the game, and imagine just turning around and looking out over the landscape and it's just a photorealistic vista and you can see for miles. And while I'm not taking away from the fact that the game itself is really beautiful, I just feel like it could have been, like, imagine what it could have been, essentially. But I also know that it takes a lot more work. Jusan, however you pronounce it, it's not a huge studio game. It's probably just made by a small handful of people compared to a lot of games, and I fully understand why they'd pick this kind of aesthetic to go for. Back onto the hardware side of things, it's the most recently, because I think it came out in 2023. It's the most recently produced game that I've played on the ROG Ally so far, because I've not, as much as I'm enjoying this system, I didn't get it as like a AAA system. I got it to play older, sort of smaller indie games on Steam. It just happens that I found a code for a Juicent to get it for like £1. I think it's £1.24. I got it off CD Keys. So yeah, while I wasn't sure of how good it was going to be, I just wanted to just knock a couple of quid off and play it on this. So yeah, it's probably the most technically demanding game I've played on here, and although I know it's like, graphically it's not amazing, I did experience a little bit of stuttering and stuff on this, which at first I was like, oh no, maybe this machine's not as great as I thought it was. But then I realised that it was when I was playing it handheld without a power source in, just running off the battery, which does like turn the performance down quite a bit on the system. While playing it docked on this big screen, or playing it handheld while the machine was plugged in, I had no problems at all. I don't think I was playing it on high, but I was very high at least. But I think I was playing it on the high settings, and it just worked. It was nice. It looks really nice on the screen, unlike the OLED screen. Looks really nice on the TV. So very impressed by this little machine. I'm playing my first 2025 game on this coming up soon. It's not a massively taxing game, but I have opted to get WWE 2K25 on the ROG Ally on Steam, should I say. So we'll see how it handles that. I'm hoping not too badly because I've spunked some cash on it. So yeah, amazing game. It was not just a game, it's an experience, and I don't say that a lot about stuff because I find it quite pretentious. But yeah, Juicent is an amazing game. I will be buying it physically on the PS5 because I want a physical copy of this game. And when I do, I'm going to get a little guide and I'm going to attempt to 100% it because it seems very doable. I just missed a few of the collectibles on the way this time. So I'm going to get sort of like a roadmap of where the collectibles are online and sit and play through it with that and 100% the game. A couple of like quicker sort of playthroughs that I did on smaller games. The first one being Another World, which I played on the Delphine software collection on the Evercade. It's the Amiga version, which is emulated on the Evercade. I believe I played this back when I was a kid, but never literally just sat up and played through it all, and I think it was probably too much for me to comprehend really when I was little. I do have a copy of it on the Mega Drive somewhere as well. There it is. But I've never played the Mega Drive version, so there you go, back in between Altered Beast and Arnold Palmer's Tournament Golf. Yeah, I've never really sat and played through the Mega Drive version because I just never really felt like playing it. I can't imagine it's quite up to the standards of the Amiga version though. Yeah, it's very cinematic. It's a lot more cinematic than I thought like a 16-bit game could be. There's so many like bespoke animations, and when I say bespoke animations I mean like something that'll only happen once in the game and it'll be fully animated. There's like little cutscenes when you die, stuff like that. It's a very unique kind of game, and it has a very unique look that you just didn't really see back in those days. The graphics are fantastic. It's sort of almost like, again, it's quite cel shaded, but it almost looks as if they're like actual polygonal 3D models, and especially on the little cutscene bits. I'm not sure if they are. I don't know if they're just like sprites made to look that way, or if they were sort of created that way and then drawn that way in 2D to sort of fit either on a floppy disk or a cartridge that's got the size limitations of a 16-bit system. But I don't know. They really look good. They look better than some PS1 games, and that's like, I know the Amiga had more power behind it than the Mega Drive, but it's saying something still for a game on that system to look better than a PlayStation game. Essentially what the game is a 2D cinematic platformer, sort of in similar vein to I think Flashback was made by the same, it's on the same cartridge. Flashback, it's like a similar sort of vein to that, where it's basically just like a short action adventure game where you're not technically, you're not forced to be up to the task of basically doing everything, like killing all the enemies and stuff like that, like you would be in a normal platform game. You'd just be stomping on things' heads, or it'd be like a run and gun shooter. You've not got the equipment to do that, so you need to find sort of more creative ways around doing stuff. Like I said, bespoke animations would be they'll be part of a game where you've got to I don't know, like an enemy will grab you and you've got to, this is an actual thing that happens in the game. An enemy will grab you, lift you above your head and they'll be strangling you, and you have to kick it in the nuts. And then when it's down, you have to roll over, grab its gun and shoot it. And all those things never happen anywhere else in the game. It's all just a completely bespoke bit for that sequence. And there's loads of these things dotted around in the game. It is very short. I did it over 2 sessions. I did save state halfway through it, but I didn't sort of use save states to inch my way through a game, which I did on a different game this month, which I'll come to probably next. The game itself provides you with passwords which basically spawn you in respawn locations, and I think I saved my state on one of those respawn locations anyway, so it's not like I was kind of using a way of getting around the game that wouldn't be in the original thing, because essentially all I was doing was bypassing putting a password in. But enough of that. I don't know why I'm explaining myself, because these games are just you experience them how you want to experience them, don't you? I don't play for prestige, I play to relax, so I don't have a problem with using things like save states or even cheats as long as you're open about it. Where was I? Yeah, I played it over 2 nights, probably maybe a couple of hours in total. And it's a very short game, but with the amount of just completely unique things going on in it at all times, it's easy to see why it would be a short game. Because you can't sustain a long game like this on an Amiga. It's just not possible. But yeah, the main story is you're a scientist, and you're working on an experiment, and something goes wrong, and you end up sort of transporting yourself to another world. When you're there, you immediately meet up with some aliens who kidnap you and put you in jail, where you're in jail with another one of these aliens. But you help each other escape, and you sort of, the rest of the game is just trying to escape from this alien facility with the help of your friend, who's another one of these aliens. You get a gun, but you only have a limit of shots for it, and you can sort of project a force field in front of yourself, which will shield you for a little bit. But the aliens can also do that, and it's a really good concept. And the sort of world is so fleshed out for such a short amount of time that you're with it, and yeah, it's just so cool. I'm kind of annoyed with myself for not playing this game before. It would have been one of those ones that I properly geeked out over as a kid. So yeah, it's kind of like it plays, for those who haven't played Flashback, because I kind of assume if you've played Flashback, you've played this. But it's kind of like a sort of, almost kind of rotoscoped feeling like Prince of Persia kind of 2D platformer. A little bit slow-paced, but, you're constantly trying to figure out what to do next and where to go next. One thing I will say is playing it on the Evercade D-pad, and it's very tricky. The Evercade makes use of 2 buttons, which the original Amiga doesn't usually. But the second button, as is usually the case with things that add an extra button to an Amiga controller, the second button is just up on the D-pad, just mapped to a different button. So it is just jump. Everything else is done with the 1 fire button, which includes holding it down to run, tapping it to shoot, and it makes it kind of so you do the wrong input every so often. Like, say, if you're trying to do certain things in a quick succession, you'll end up charging at an enemy instead of shooting them and stuff like that. That's one thing I had a problem with. The Mega Drive version will probably address this better with 3 buttons, which will be correctly mapped out to things. There's apparently also a Mega CD version, which is probably will be the best of both worlds. It probably have the graphical capabilities of the Amiga version and the controls of the Mega Drive one, so probably that's the way to go to play this game, actually. I think in future I might try and find a ROM of the Mega CD version, if I ever want to go back to it. Another criticism is that there is sometimes absolutely zero room for error when you're doing certain things. There's a bit later on in the game, there's spoilers, by the way, there's going to be spoilers for this. Later in the game, you're injured, and there's your alien friend and another one of the aliens are on the floor scrapping, and you've got to crawl to this lever, power up a laser by pulling one lever, and the other alien, the bad alien, will eventually beat your alien friend and start walking towards it, and then you've got to press another lever to activate a laser when it gets to a certain point to kill the alien. If you don't start crawling immediately as you regain control of the situation, you will not get to the levers in time to do what you need to do. And the respawn point from that is quite far back, so it's unless you know exactly what you're doing, you will fail that, and you will have to retread quite a couple of times. So that's what I'm saying. There's not very much room for error in that. There's one bit where I nearly rage quit, where enemies will come at you from both sides of the screen, and you've got to be putting a shield up at one side, shooting through that to one side of the enemy, putting shields up at the other side. You need to be basically managing shields at both sides, and they've also got shields up, so you need to be sort of putting a shield up, hammering away at their shields as much as you can, hoping they don't do the same to yours. And you've got this coming from both angles, it's very annoying, and it took me a lot of attempts to do that. And nearly made me rage quit. There's just so much like where there's zero room for error. But aside from like little niggles like that, this game is incredible. For those people who did play these things back in the day and loved them, I need to recommend a game called Full Void. I forgot to get it off the shelf, so I'll just superimpose a picture of it over what I'm talking about here now. You know, it's on modern systems, but it's on Evercade, and I believe the Evercade version is the only way you can get this physically, which is probably what's put people off playing it if they can't get it physically. But look it up. It's a game called Full Void. It's very similar to this. It's got the same kind of like bespoke animations for different things, the same kind of little cutscenes when you die, and it's an incredible game. And again, it's very short, so if you're looking for something to play on like a 52 game challenge, then look no further than this. Next one was a PS1 game, which I do actually own, but I only own the disc and I couldn't bother to go and look for it. I didn't realise it's quite a valuable one, and back in the day when I lived in a flat and I didn't have space for all my games, and I had to cull a lot of the cases and stuff for games and just collect the disc only. This one fell victim to that, and had I known that it's quite a valuable one, which I didn't, I would have saved the box for it, but I didn't. So yeah, I knew that Castlevania Symphony of the Night was valuable, saved everything for that. Didn't realise Castlevania Chronicles had value either. So anyway, Castlevania Chronicles, I do own it physically on the PS1, just a disc, but I played through it. I started it on the Anbenic, only played through like a level or two on that, and then restarted it again on the PlayStation Classic, so I could play on the TV. The main thing I took away from playing Castlevania Chronicles is that I realised I don't like Castlevania, at least not in a classic way. I do like the ones that came about after Symphony of the Night, when they started on the Metroidvania kind of thing. The just basic plodding side-scrolling platformer Castlevania games from before that, no. Maybe it's just this one, but I've just put on my notes here, I realised I don't like Classicvania. The game is slow, it's plodding, it's difficult. A lot of the time it feels like there's no way to get through a situation without taking some hits or dying. And it's just... oh god. I really didn't enjoy playing it. I mentioned when I was talking about Another World that I didn't abuse save states. Well, I did on this one. I was constantly spamming save states. It was the only way I was going to get through it. I just generally, I don't know why I stuck with it, because I just didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it. I think it's probably because I just knew it was a relatively short game that I could get through and have another one under my belt for the 52 game challenge that I'm not really even doing. I just didn't like it. Don't like Castlevania. I feel like I should be at some kind of like Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, like my name is Pete and I don't like Castlevania. It's just not for me. Really good music though. Really enjoyed the music in it. Kind of like if you play the arrange mode, because what the game is it's on the PS1, but it's a kind of remake of the original like Akamoju, which I'm probably butchering the pronunciation, and I apologise for that. But the original Akamoju Dracula on the Sharp S68000 or whatever it was, it's a remake of that. But there's also an arrange mode which brings sort of the graphics up to the quality of like Symphony of the Night. Redoes a lot of the sprites, and it changes the music to be CD quality instead of like chiptune. So the music, hearing like properly recorded versions with like orchestral, or at least synth orchestra and like electric guitar and stuff of like songs like Vampire Killer. Yeah, the music is great in this game, but that's the only thing that's great, because I really just didn't enjoy playing it at all. Move on to the last game I want to talk about, the sort of main event of this, and that is Mad Max on the PS4, which is the game that's taken probably 80 hours of my life this month. It's a game that I've had since it came out 10 years ago, and I bought it, I played it for like a week, and then we went away for a week to like the coast with a couple of friends, and then when we came back they stayed at ours for a couple of nights, so it was like a week and a half away from playing this game, and I couldn't get back into it back in the day, so I banged it on the shelf, and there it sat for like 9.5 years. And I've finally gone back to it. And let me tell you, at first I was really kicking myself for not playing it more back then, because, well, I'll say my experience with this game has been a roller coaster. And we'll come more onto that later. The game, it's like you sort of open world kind of, I call them like map clearing games. It's like you kind of Assassin's Creed style, Far Cry style, Watch Dogs style kind of gameplay loop of, you're in an open area, you're in like a sort of mapped off district of this open area. You find something high up. In Assassin's Creed it'd be a tower. In like Watch Dogs or Far Cry or something like that, it'd be like a sort of like radio tower or a service, like a sort of server station or something like that. And you go and activate that, and it'd uncover everything on the map, and then you sort of go around the map and clear all the bits of interest off and stuff. It really appeals to me as a collector of things, because it's like just wiping things off a map. It's so satisfying to me. I'm going to coin a phrase actually. Because we've got Metroidvanias, which are like the games that have the characteristics of Metroid or like Super Metroid or the Castlevania like Symphony of the Night onwards games, and they just got merged the names into one, called it Metroidvania. I'm going to coin this one for games like this, Far Cry, Assassin's Creed, Watch Dogs, Days Gone, I think was a bit like it as well. I'm coining a phrase, new genre, Far Creed. That's what I'm calling it, and I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to push that. Far Creed's now a thing. It does sound a bit like a Christian rock band, I'm not going to lie, but yeah, so it's a Far Creed type game. It's made by Just Cause, that's another type of Far Creed. It's made by the same team who did Just Cause, and it does show. Also, like one of the greatest things about this game is the hand-to-hand combat. Is it's got the sort of Batman Arkham style, and it's probably the closest to the actual Batman games in terms of how it actually feels and responds and stuff like that as I've ever seen. It's not quite as fluid as Batman. It's more sort of hard hitting and stuff like that, but you're not playing as a guy who's been training to do every martial art with some Tibetan monks for half his life on this. You're playing as a guy who's learned to fight by having to learn to fight. So it makes more sense that way. So yeah, really good Arkham style combat. Probably, like, they tried to do it in stuff like Sleeping Dogs and things like that, but this really nails it in a way that other games don't. But looking back, it is a WB game, so it's, Warner Brothers. The map clearing aspect of it is really, really addictive, and is what I spent most of my time doing while playing this game in the 80 or so hours that I played it. But kind of the story lets it down a little bit. It's the story is not very long in the grand scheme of things. You could, if it wasn't for the fact that you have to grind to get strong enough to even be close to doing the last few missions, you can probably knock the story out in about 2 or 3 hours. It's just all the padding is what is essentially padding, but it is what I do love about these games. Like I've mentioned, like finding your bases, shutting them down, everything you'll get will award you with scrap, which you use to upgrade yourself in your car. All that kind of thing it's packaged as being optional and not really needed in the main story, apart from a few bits where it'll be like, oh, you need to go and clear this base or something like that. But really, it really is not optional. You have to put the time in to at least not do everything maybe, but at least do enough to fully upgrade your car and yourself, because later on you will need it. The story as well, the main thing that lets the game down is the story, because it doesn't really go anywhere. Again, full spoilers now. The end game, the last few missions, it's like the whole story is like at the start of the game you lose your car, you lose your weapons, you lose everything, and you meet up with your dog, which is the dog that first attacks you, and then you beat it in a fight, and then the enemy kicks it off the side of his truck and injures it, and the dog you end up rescuing the dog after that, and then the dog becomes your partner. you meet the dog and you meet Chumbucket, who's like a sort of hunchback, kind of deformed guy who's just a massively like capable mechanic. And the whole like aim of this story is getting the parts together to make this a new car, because your old car's gone, and you're making a new car which is going to be the best car ever. And everything you do up to a certain point is just to make this car and get the engine that you need. The engine's the last component you need. You've got a V6, but you need a V8 engine. And that's like the whole driving focus of this game. And the fact that Max doesn't keep friends because friends are attachments, and attachments get taken away from you and stuff like that. And you're meeting characters on the way, like Chumbucket and the dog. Like when you meet a woman called Hope and a little girl called Glory, who for some reason takes a shine to you and wants to be your wife. And then in a weird kind of coma dream sequence later on, you get married to this woman in a dream by a man with a dog's head. Yet this seems to be legally binding, and after that she does refer to herself as your wife, despite the fact that she wasn't having the dream either. I don't know, it's just messed up. Aside from that, you have like a chance basically. You get this, by the end of it, you've got your new car. It's all, great. You've got your friends, you've got your potential dream wife and child, and it's like everything that Max has ever wanted, but he doesn't take it. He just acts like a dick, and then everybody gets killed. You get your old car back somehow, and you end up driving off into the distance on your own with your old car that you started the game with, and it's like nothing has actually happened in this game. Nothing that's actually kind of gonna make any kind of dent in any narrative going forwards. You started the game on your own in your Interceptor car. You end the game on your own in your Interceptor car, and nothing's been learned. No lessons have been learned. Nothing has happened of any note. It's annoying. And it kind of made me kind of think, well, what was the whole point of that last 80 hours then that I spent playing this game? If nothing has changed, there's been no impact. You might as well have just played the intro to the game and cut out the bit where he loses the car, just showing him rocking up in the car and then driving off in the car. And that's essentially the same kind of narrative as what the game actually, gives you. There's also a level where you have to do like a sort of combat race against somebody, where you're driving around the racetrack and you've got to blow this truck up with these spears. You're constantly sort of hitting the side of the track and getting turned around, so you're facing backwards, which is very annoying. The truck's going around the same speed that you are if you've got armour on your vehicle. If you don't have armour on your vehicle, you'll go a lot faster because you're not weighed down. But you will blow up basically at any kind of collision. So if you do armour up your vehicle, which is probably the best way of doing it, you basically need to stay on him, because if you crash, he's gone. It'll take a few attempts to hit him with these explosive spears to blow him up, and you can't just keep spamming the spears at him. You have to wait for it to reload each time. And it's very frustrating, and you can't just turn around and go the opposite way and like hope to meet him head on as he goes around the track the right way, because if you go the wrong way for a certain amount of time, it just fails the mission. So yeah, it's very annoying that way. Not only that, but there's also other enemies constantly respawning. So you can't just wipe out every other car on the track and then focus on him either. From reading forums and stuff, I realise I've found out a lot of people found this bit to be absolutely game killing, and it almost killed the game for me too. I think the only thing that spurred me on was the fact that I'd spent, like I said, 80 hours up to this point grinding, and I didn't want all that to be for nothing. But that's just one mission. It's just that one mission and the ending that kind of spoiled the experience for me. Up until that point, I loved clearing the map, loved taking down all the bases, loved the collecting and gathering and it's kind of like grinding, but not in a traditional RPG sense. You just need to keep collecting scrap so you can use that to upgrade things and upgrade people's bases and stuff like that. I loved doing all that, and then I hit that race mission, which really made me want to stop playing. I got through that. I enjoyed the next couple of bits where you just got a few sort of like fetch quests, or you need to go and find somebody. They're in this base full of enemies. Go for it. Do some of that great combat again, and really enjoyed that. And then it got to the ending, and I was like, oh. Like they could have done this where everybody was like, where people survived and there was a happy ending. At first I thought maybe I got a bad ending and there might be another ending, but apparently there's only one ending to the game, and it's just bad and depressing, and just restores everything to the status quo. I do recommend playing Mad Max if you're not bothered about stuff like that. It's a satisfying and fun game with some really great game mechanics. The grappling hook on the car as well, I forgot to mention that. You've got a grappling hook on the back of your car. It's one of the first weapons you get. And you can use it to like pull down structures, you can use it to pull like wheels off cars and stuff. And you can use it to impale people and just like drag them along and stuff like that. That's a really fun mechanic, and they should have used that more. It's full of really great mechanics, this game. Technically, it's a very good game. I just think the writing is bad, and the story's just generally bad. And it kind of makes the whole thing pointless. Go into it with that in mind, and I think it's still a very enjoyable experience. It just that end game bit, when it went from a game that I was fully loving playing to a game that I just wanted to get finished because I'd put so much into it. So yeah, I've had less to talk about this time, but I've somehow talked for longer, so I'm sorry if I've dragged this on too much, but thanks for watching. Like I said before, if you want to be part of this and just come and have a chat with me for an hour in an evening, and we'll put this out. It's not going to be a live show thing. It's just a recorded thing for me, talking to me about stuff, and we'll have a chat, and then I'll edit it and put it out as a special episode. If that strikes your fancy, then give me a shout and we'll sort something out. I am going to start approaching other people about it, so watch this space. Thank you for those who watched last time. Thanks for those who are watching this time, and sorry for rambling so much. I'll see you soon. Thanks.